will be standing in for our chair this evening for our meeting, and appreciate all the folks who have joined us online. To get started, I would like to call roll by having folks here in our physical environment as well as online who are commissioners identify themselves. So if any commissioners could please identify themselves who are joining us virtually for the record by unmuting yourself and stating your name, that would be fantastic. So any commissioners online? Don't be shy.
Good evening. This is David Tim, Chair. Unable to make it today, but glad that Chris was able to take over. Thanks.
Hey there, Mr. Chair. And do we have any other commissioners on the line?
Good evening. This is Elder Julio Basurto. I'm present online.
Excellent. Good evening.
Good evening.
That would be everyone. And then if we can start in the room.
Matt Royer here.
Ryan Whitaker here.
Aaron Almanza here.
Jared Mukherjee here.
Kristen Clegg here.
Emily Camardo here.
Excellent. And again, Chris Rimbush. And we have quorum in the room, which is fantastic. And so I think we will proceed with public comment. And who we have first?
Janet Valenzuela.
Excellent. And Janet, you will have 3 minutes, and we're going to set up, I believe, Hector will be setting up a virtual timer. So if you give us a moment, and then we'll let you get started. Excellent. Are you just on the phone, or can you see the timer?
I see the timer. Thank you.
Excellent. And you are free to proceed.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk again about the Serranos apartment. More than 3 years have passed, and we're still in the same saga. Some changes were made, but the work has not been finished. There are still many things to change, to fix and improve the building's structure. But I don't understand why they can't change the treatment of the office workers towards the residents. The intimidation that the residents feel when they go to the office is not justified. They mention lawyers when they ask why things are like this. They respond, quote, "We have lawyers," close quote. Residents are vulnerable and intimidated. I think Drucker and Falk office needs to have more ethical and professionalism when talking to residents. Twice in the past week, the office sent out messages stating that they don't have phone service. The phones were down. An organization like AHC should have better equipment not to disrupt the service to the residents. The issues of the elevators have been another problem for the residents, especially those who live on the 8th floor. Apart from putting someone to help carry their groceries, the people do not carry the children or the people themselves to their units. They have to walk up the stairs. I would like AHC to explain why residents experience cloudy and yellowish water. There are constant messages almost every week that indicate either water cutoff or electrical service down in different areas of the building. So the question for AHC is, one day, are you going to be able to improve the living conditions for the residents of Serranos? They pay rent, and it's not cheap. They pay to live there. The money is the same color as the money of everyone else who lives in Arlington, but their conditions are the most deplorable. I want to ask you, commissioners, to put a little more ears, a little more eyes on what AHC is doing in affordable units, not only at Serranos. We are also talking about Arbor Heights and other properties. In most of the affordable units live immigrant families or families who cannot speak. That's why these companies take advantage, because the residents don't complain, they put up with it. I hope that you take into account what I'm telling you. There are many narratives, there are many stories from the neighbors. Bottom line, they are afraid to complain. You commissioners can create a structure or changes or help to create changes that favor families living in affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your public comments this evening. I'd like to provide an opportunity for any commissioners who have follow-up questions or comments to make. We'll start with folks virtually. If you are a commissioner, you have a follow-up question or comment that you would like to make, please take yourself off mute, identify yourself, and proceed.
Good evening. This is Chair David Tim of the TLC. I just want to say that we've since you reached out at the end of the year and the beginning of the new year, we've been coordinating with county, with Housing Commission, and with AHC as well to help to address these issues. We are hoping to organize a meeting, potentially joint between Housing and the Tenant Landlord Commission in March, and that is not to the exclusion of an additional meeting that will be a county presentation on sort of the lessons learned from the worst parts of the Serrano issues over the last couple of years. So I just want to assure you that lots of work is going in behind the scenes to address these concerns as best we can. By the same token, I do want to encourage tenants, to the extent that they're on the call or that advocates can relay this message. If there are life safety issues that you're dealing with, the county is available and ready to act quickly and effectively to address those issues. For instance, we heard about heat going out during very cold days and issues like that. When you're not receiving a response from management, from AHC, this is the perfect opportunity to reach out to the county. I understand and recognize that tenants have issues reaching out to the county and to AHC, and those make sense to me. So it's going to be a focus of the commission, along with Housing, to see what we can do to make this process easier, particularly for those for whom English is not a first language. I understand that it's vexing that these issues continue for so long, and I just want to let you know that we're doing everything we can behind the scenes and with the county to try and address these concerns, including having meetings with AHC, and I believe Paul Bernard of AHC offered to come to the TLC meeting today. We decided to allow him to come to the March meeting and to give additional time for advocates and tenants to organize and attend for a larger joint discussion on some of these issues. So again, I want to thank you for your testimony, and let the rest of the commissioners ask questions or comments as appropriate. Wanted to give an update on what we've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners joining us virtually have any questions or comment? Otherwise, we'll go to the room.
Yes, hi, this is Elder Basuto. My comment is I'm backing everything that Janet has stated, and I appreciate the comments by Chair David Tim. I'm looking for change. Just as we got off of our last meeting, we received more texts indicating more issues, interruptions, phone line, water, everything else. I think what's most importantly to point out here is the way residents are afraid to speak out now. Serrano has been going on since 2018, 2019. Residents have spoken out. There's been some residents that come to the TLC. There's been residents that have organized, and nothing has come of that. Nothing really has come out of that. If you look at it now, if you look at what's going on now in 2023, and retaliation has happened to the residents. There's been residents that have been intimidated by maintenance staff, office staff. It's going around in circles. So I don't blame them for being here. I'm glad that there's voices here to give out those concerns, but it's going to be difficult. The same issues are going on in Arbor Heights and other places as well. So I want to make that point right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners in the room, please.
So this is Ryan Whitaker. So I got to be honest with you. I've been in the commission for a year now. We've heard Serrano reports for most of that time. I followed it in the news prior to being appointed to the commission. So this does seem like a long-term intractable problem. And And I'm concerned that this issue, while it's gotten some press and whatnot, is finding itself in kind of a bureaucratic red tape kind of quagmire, like having, deferring, having people come to the next meeting a month from now. I mean, that's another month that these people have to live in these conditions. It chaps me a little bit because when I'm out trying to buy apartment buildings for my own investment purposes, which is what I do for a living, I have to compete against AHC. AHC can outbid me for properties and charge less for rent because they're subsidized. They get subsidized capital. We put our capital and our own private capital into our buildings, and therefore we have to maintain them. We have to maintain them. We have to keep our residents happy. If we don't, they move out. If we don't keep the buildings in good shape, we get building inspections or code violations or things like that. And so I don't understand how AHC, which is a subsidized entity, is able to get away with stuff that I, as a private landlord, would not be able to get away with, both from a market perspective and from a regulatory perspective. It's not like these things are new issues, and it's very frustrating for me from just a competitive standpoint that somehow, because and I don't know where the governance of AHC comes in and what oversight the county has over that, but if we have to play by the rules, they should have to play by the rules. And I feel sorry for these residents. I would never treat a resident of mine the way that these AHC residents are apparently being treated. So that's also frustrating to see that. If I have vacancies, I'd pass out applications to Toronto and maybe get some new tenants. But it's frustrating why the commission can't demand more action instead of more consultation and red tape, especially with the money that AHC is receiving from the county. So whatever we can take action-wise, I would wholeheartedly get behind.
Appreciate that. Before commenting myself, any other commissioners in the room who would like to ask any follow-up questions or have any comments? So I both appreciate, personally, this is Chris Wimbush. I both appreciate the update from our chair, and I think we'll have some other comments, public comments on this topic as well. And I agree. I mean, I think for as long as I've been on the commission now, or just about, this has been a continued challenge for residents of AHC properties. I think, I imagine what's frustrating for the county as well is that I think from the, from the county, I think has put in a significant amount of time. The Housing Commission has put in a significant amount of time. And so I agree with your frustration that Ryan, that it feels like we've been sort of going around in circles, and then to hear questions around intimidation and particularly taking advantage of folks, perhaps because they're perceived as having less power in our political and economic system, moves it from simple tenant landlord disputes to something I think a bit more sinister. So I know I will say administratively, I think the president CEO of AHC coming, I think that option was presented as to, I think, today or yesterday. And the reason why we made the decision, and David as chair, and had a discussion is in part because we wanted to make sure that there was adequate time for other stakeholders to participate in a conversation like that with someone who's head of AHC. So I think that is the reason why we decided to hold off until next month, and then Housing Commission is also having. So we're trying to figure out what the maximum impact of forums would be for there. So just wanted to provide a clarification there, and check me if I said something wrong.
No, you didn't say anything wrong, but I wondered if you like anyone might be on here from AHC.
Or Chris, I would also, like to invite anyone from Drucker involved to the management, company that's overseeing this. They're third party, I'm assuming, from AHC. I'd love to hear from someone from their team. If not just to respond to what's going on, but to give us an update as to what they're doing to address these issues. Because they have been going on. I joined at the same time Ryan did, and I've heard Toronto Apartments every other meeting I've been involved in. And it's sad that these residents have to go on here and plead with us, and they get no response. I'm glad that AHC is going to join us next meeting. That's awesome. That's good movement. but someone from Drucker and Fault, who they're getting paid a management fee to manage these apartments, I'm assuming they want to defend themselves or at the very least respond to these issues. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we know if someone from AHC is on the line, or you just want to see if there's someone from AHC? Is there any representatives from AHC who would like to address our initial public comment? No pressure, but I want to give you the opportunity if you're there.
Hi, Co-Chair Chris. I also wanted to mention that there was some comments to be read by the NAACP. I think it was Brian Coleman.
Yes. Yep, and we're heading in that direction now.
Thanks so much.
Hearing no AHC representatives who are willing to speak, then we'll go to our second public comment.
Brian Coleman.
Okay, great. So that would be Brian Coleman, who submitted a comment, but is also, I think, on the line and would like to share as well. Do we have you on, Brian?
I don't think he is.
Brian, I don't think he's online. He submitted it for it to be read at the commission.
Okay. So I will, if folks are kind. There's a second. It's only the first page, though.
Do we need actually to read it into the record? Because I think all the commissioners have
Yeah, we got
read
it.
it.
So I think it's not posted. Will it be posted for the public, or just have to be read in order to be part of the public record?
I'm gonna just see how the posting goes, like, if you get it, and generally have it read.
Did he ask not?
Oh.
Yeah, that's for it.
Is that only one, you get one side? Okay.
I believe it can be FOIA'd, but in the interest of just making sure that's on the record, if the commissioners don't have an issue, then I will read it in full. Good evening, Tenant Landlord Commission members. My name is Brian Coleman, Second Vice President of the NAACP Arlington branch. And I'd like to speak with you tonight about the state of affairs at several of the AHC properties. AHC prides itself on being a respectable and receptive provider of affordable housing to many of our fellow Arlingtonians. However, AHC has an unfortunate history of neglect and mistreatment of its residents, which fostered distrust between the organization and the community. Having recently visited a few properties, including the Serrano and Arbor Heights, and being given the opportunity to speak to several tenants, I regret to inform you that many of the problems that plagued AHC persist to this day. Rodent infestations, frequent elevator shutoffs, which pose a hazard to the elderly and the disabled, roving heat and water outages, and poor security and surveillance are few of the burdens residents face. But chief among these issues are mismanagement and poor communication, which lie at the heart of the problem. It's a well-established fact that many of the AHC properties are older and are in desperate need of renovations. Therefore, a certain level of patience and understanding is due when discussing problems at these properties. However, this does not mitigate the fact that the lives of residents are being negatively impacted by factors perfectly within AHC's control. For example, it took nearly a month for staff to offer help to hundreds of residents having to carry groceries and other things up flights of stairs. The elevators were out. The availability of portable heaters was not publicized, even during a heat outage. Rent and service payments are not being properly documented, resulting in residents receiving multiple payment reminder letters. An unreliable notice regarding utility outages and projected resumption of services leave many in the dark. These issues can and should be promptly addressed by AHC management and staff, as our tax dollars are being spent to create substandard conditions that I'm confident none of us would like to experience. Affordable must never become a byword for inferior when it comes to housing, and I believe it is our duty to ensure that these issues are rectified. I am encouraged by the attitude of the new AHC management, and the plans they have put forward to improve conditions at their properties are warmly welcomed. It is my hope that the Commission will work with AHC to guarantee that all Arlingtonians, no matter their race, ethnicity, gender, income, or nationality, have access to adequate living conditions and are able to live with dignity. Any comments from the commissioners on that public comment?
say was well said, but we need action, I think. It sounds like we need to try to find some county organ that will enforce some kind of action. The building department, something from the county board that says no more money, public money for HC unless you get this stuff fixed. I don't know, something, but I mean, we can talk about this every meeting and, you know, but something should happen.
So if I may, there was in fact a meeting with the agency this week. It was called by the chair of the Housing Commission. Staff, Housing Commission staff, as well as AHC staff, and Helen Macbeth chaired that meeting. It was a productive meeting. You know, all of the different grievances, if you will, were addressed. We got to hear both sides. And so, work is taking place. Staff is doing what they are able to do to the extent that is within control to do anything, and AHC is also working on several fronts. So
Which staff?
hopefully by next week.
Housing staff?
Housing staff and whatever other staff is needed or necessary. So with open inspections, is that. But Marie, I don't know if you wanted to make any comment here.
Hello, it's Marie Randall with the Housing Division. I don't have much more to add than Rolda added, but we are working to you know, help the situation and to try to figure out some of, you know, some better processes with our other divisions and departments. So we're working on that, and I believe the March Housing Commission meeting, the joint meeting, when AHC is there, we'll have more information for you all.
Please.
Rolda, if you can expand on what staff is able to do versus what staff is not able to do.
That would be Marie. Marie, do you have a question?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, so Rolda mentioned that you were able to talk about what staff is able to do. Can you expand on what you have in your ability and what you're not able to address at this time?
So I think it's a pretty complex answer. So I mean, the county does have a lot of regulatory items in their, you know, in their toolbox. So we do have legal documents that allow us to look, you know, to do inspections anytime we want to you know, look at financial records, to you know, look at their audits, to do things like that. So we can, those are things that we do on an annual basis. We are doing another full round of HQS inspections on the Serrano. I believe those are scheduled for right after APS spring break. So we can do things like that. We can also work with DHS and any of their clients in there. So, and then DHS has a whole host of other things that they can do if there are some issues, you know, with a specific unit and a housing choice voucher tenant. They can abate the rent. They can wait until things are fixed. So that is something that is also in the county's toolbox. So there are things like that. Now there's also, and Anne, I believe, has been at the meetings and talking about our long-term CAF strategies that we're working on and what we can do with more coordination. We are working closely with code. We are, you know, working closely with, it's actually under DHS with pest, you know, the pest team, whatever, for lack of a better word. And, you know, the issues around, you know, that there are, you know, Serrano, there's issues, you know, throughout the county. It's not specific to anywhere, but so we're working with them. And so we do have a lot more coordination there. But as you know, we're trying to make sure we can cover a lot of different things. And you know, I believe, again, we're putting it all together for the presentation when AHC is there, or our comments, I guess, when AHC is there next month.
This is Chris Wimbush. I'm curious, can you speak a bit, and again, I recognize the delay, but, or not the delay, but the March meetings, But I think particularly concerning, and I think relatively, I think the intensity of some of the comments we're starting to hear about intimidation of residents and the management sort of putting forward, talk to our lawyers types of mentality, which I'm a renter and I've never had management office when I ask a question answer with essentially call my lawyer. And so that seems like a different, like there's physical aging properties and then there's discriminating against residents or otherwise intimidating or engaging in retaliation for exercising their rights under public housing laws. So I'm curious, can you talk a bit about what the county's doing specifically to investigate those claims? Because those seem to be intensifying in ways as over the course of the last year we've been hearing. I think the relationship between residents and management deteriorate.
So in all honesty, that this is some of the first time I'm hearing about this at this juncture. We heard about it previously. I know, and again, I that is something that we would bring up with AHC if that's how residents have been their experiences with Drucker and Falk. We work with Drucker and Falk to schedule things, to make sure certain things are going on. But for those, I guess those comments from residents, right now the housing division, or at least my little section, has not heard about that this current round. So we would have to pull in some other folks and see what can happen with researching that, and also talking to Paul, and if they've heard anything.
Let me just, if I can, for Janet and any other residents that are on the line, I also serve on the Human Rights Commission, and our human rights ordinance also covers discrimination in the context of housing and public accommodations. And so I strongly encourage any residents that are experiencing retaliation for exercising their rights under public under anti-discrimination and other affordable housing and housing laws to file a complaint through the Human Rights Commission's website online as another avenue for addressing these types of concerns. I think we have a couple of commissioners. Brian?
Just to follow up on something Marie said. So Marie, this is Ryan Whitaker. What you mentioned the things that you have in your toolbox. What tools are you actually using? I mean, I know there's the range of things that can be done. What things are being done that you just described?
Okay, so we keep an internal list, and I'm just going to go down the list of what we've been doing since the letter. Okay. Great. Okay. Here we go. So based on that information that we received, or that was received by the county in the January 11th letter, we have placed Serrano back on the inspection schedule. So this will be the second full, we're going to do an all unit inspection schedule for April, right after APS spring break. And that's gonna, AHC is actually doing also their own inspections just to make sure they understand what's going on. And so they are doing those in late February. I am actually going to go out to see, how they're doing their inspections. I'm going to attend a couple days with them, and then ours will follow up in April. We're attending, there's an upcoming resident meeting in February, actually next week, and staff is going to be there. We're also working with AHC to confirm future resident meetings, the schedule for that, so that we can continue to go and hear the residents' concerns directly. We have, or I believe Anne has offered to meet monthly with advocates and AHC, and that those meetings as those meetings become more episodic, this may provide more regular forum for everyone to hear the same information and issues. We are also trying to reinforce communication channels with residents. And we will continue to provide channels for those residents and advocates to share our concerns with us and code enforcement staff, so those issues can be addressed as quickly or as efficiently as possible. We're continuing with our implementation of the CAF strategies. So they, as you know, aim to improve the county oversight and tenant supports at CAF properties. So we're continuing that implementation, and again, the first report will be in April 20 or next month, or in April, a couple months away. And then it'll be shared, a constant sharing of that information via the Affordable Housing Master Plan annual report after that. So the other thing we are doing is we are continuing to meet and follow up with AHC on the Serrano renovation and/or redevelopment plan. So a lot of the issues that are cited probably are going to be addressed by a comprehensive renovation or redevelopment of the property. AHC is working on these, and they will be communicated to residents, as well as the county and the community as soon as they have their plan together. And then we've also, encouraged the proactive messaging by AHC. We've talked to them about making sure that residents know about any preventative maintenance up front and, what it may impact, and allow the residents to prepare for these disruptions caused by future maintenance. So those are the things that we have been doing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, it's Kirit Mukherjee. So I've been involved with the Serrano since a couple of us went there in 2019. The one thing that's different tonight that I heard is that that I think we should follow up on is the assertion of residents feeling intimidated about coming forward with their complaints to property management. Not necessarily tonight if it's not available, but I think we should follow up on is that, is that a feeling, or are there specific actions which we're talking about here? Because we have not really heard that before. I mean, the building problems we're aware of, but I'm concerned about that, and I think we should follow up on that.
I think I'll formally speak for the commission, but I think the questions of intimidation by property management needs to be directly addressed, either by AHC or by county, having looked into the matter in the March forums that we're discussing. I'd also encourage the county to, through Rhoda, if there are public forums at the Serrano, I certainly know as an individual commissioner, I would be interested in attending them, and other commissioners might as well. Got some interest in the room. So I just encourage when those dates are set for them to be shared with the TLC so that we can attend as well. I see Julio. Do you have a comment or question?
Yes, thank you, Chair Chris. I've heard intimidation. I've experienced intimidation, and I've heard the intimidation at Serrano since we started the meetings in 2019, 2020, and it's been continuing. But what's new about it now is it's more blatant. Previously we even had disabled residents. A child that was autistic, a family harassed by what was former AHC management, which was the profit arm of AHC Inc. So these things are not new, but it's more blatant now. You just walk into the office, and what residents are reporting is exactly what Janet stated. Basically, talk to my lawyer. It's something that they're telling us. They won't say it outside of a confidential meeting. Residents won't say it. We can try, but they're telling us that, and it's consistently, and they're also the atmosphere of the office, which we've had before when we had a previous management. So it's something that's never been solved, but it's just more blatant now through Drucker and Falk. So I agree with that, and the statements by Ryan. It's not fair that other landlords have to go strictly by these standards, and AHC is not held accountable to what they need to be doing, especially as partners of the county. Thank you.
So I've said two more quick things real quick.
Of course.
This is Ryan. Oh, sorry. Is that all right?
Yeah. No.
You looked at me, so I thought that.
Oh, no, yeah.
Two more quick things. One is, so for Marie, I would assume that you guys are prioritizing the things that are most impactful on a resident's ability to occupy their apartments. So specifically heat in the winter. So, I mean, it's great that you're going to go do an inspection in April. By then, the cherry blossoms will be out and winter will be mostly over. So if the residents have to live, for another 60 days with no heat or heat interruptions, Golda's shaking her head a lot at what I'm saying. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. That's okay. I mean, if that's, I would just prioritize what are, more important things that like heat or whatever. The second thing is, some of these other issues related to intimidation and things like that. I mean, there are some things that, to speak to my lawyer isn't necessarily intimidation. It's not good customer service, but it's not necessarily intimidation. If it's because they're not willing to take a complaint, that's bad management. And that means that, that perhaps AHC should be pressured to replace their manager or find somebody who will be responsive as a customer service issue. But, so I know, I'm sure they're unhappy with the response they're getting. Whether that is intimidation or not, it's hard to say based on what we've heard. But, clearly it needs to be looked into, so.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention, I saw somebody from AHC on the screen. I don't know if they're online, but I saw a name from AHC come up. Hand raised.
Well, I think that's a perfect segue. If anyone from AHC would, again, like to speak on the topic, as we are always in the interest of fairness, and I think we'd just be generally interested in hearing from you. Otherwise, oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And can you identify yourself, please?
Yes, this is Jennifer Endo. I'm AHC's Vice President of Community Relations. I'm just surprised to hear all of this. We've been working very hard at Serrano. We continue to work hard with Drucker and Falk, and the majority of the residents are happy. We understand there are still some concerns, and we're addressing them. We're preparing to provide a full, thorough update at the March 9th meeting. We checked with the county yesterday, and they didn't think it was important that we be here tonight, but I thought I would just listen in. So I'm very surprised, to hear the extent of, I understand people's concerns, but, we're just experiencing something different at the Serrano. We have 2 full-time resident services staff who are there every day. We have a community engagement staff member who's there quite often, and we're just not experiencing the same narrative.
Well, thank you for your comment. I will just speak for myself, not the commission. I don't think it's there's something wrong. I don't, unless we are assuming folks are being disingenuous in their comments when they come to commission meetings, or when the NAACP talks to tenants, or when Elder Borsuro talks to tenants, or when the county gets complaints. So I appreciate what you might be experiencing is different, but I would very much suggest in the course of the next month, between now and the joint committee meetings, that you figure out what you and your team figure out what's going on, because I don't think these people are lying, and I don't think the advocates are lying, and I don't think the folks we're hearing from are lying. And so if that's the case, then it's a problem for you if you think the narrative is different than reality. But I don't think these people are lying, and we've been hearing about this for a year. And the county has made it a priority, and so I don't think they think that there are challenges here. And so again, speaking for myself and not the commission, there's a problem, sure. and I strongly urge you you and the team to spend the time. And so I'll let you have whatever 15-20 seconds you'd like to respond, and then we're going to move forward to any other commissioner questions, and we're going to move forward on our agenda. And we look forward to a more comprehensive update and response in March, because I think what's going on is from what we're hearing, there's something seriously wrong, and I think we need to get a resolution on it for people who are just trying to live their lives.
Sure, I understand that, and I'm not trying to minimize anybody's experience, but I'm just trying to let you know that there are a lot of residents of the Serrano who are happy, and we do value the advocates' input, and we try to keep those lines of communication open, and we try to respond, and we're just working hard with Drucker and Falk to address all of the issues. If there are residents who are unhappy, we would love to hear from them, and we do our own outreach. But we're always happy to work with the advocates to make it a better living experience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other comments in the room? And I just want to make sure you do have a copy of the January 23rd letter from the Housing Commission detailing the issues that's
Yeah,
been circulated to the.
We had a good meeting with Kellen and county staff, including Ann Venetia, on Monday morning. And like I said, we were preparing for the March 9th to give a thorough report, and just, we're surprised. We didn't know that this was going to be discussed tonight until late today. So I'm sorry that we're not more prepared, but yeah, we've been having lots of discussion. We met with NAACP. There was an advocate from Voice was also there. Like I said, the county staff, and with Kellen Macbeth. So we've really been trying to keep the communication open and are always happy to do that. We know that, not perfect, but we're definitely, things are not what they were a couple of years ago. There's been a lot of improvement and a lot of changes at AHC.
Appreciate that. And with that, if there are other public comments, we will move forward. I believe we have, David, do you have any additional, I know the next item in the agenda was an update on the Serrano. I think we may have covered that. Is there anything else you'd like to add? If not, we'll, I think, move on to subcommittee. I don't have it.
Nothing.
Yes, thank you. But David, anything else on the Serrano before we move forward?
Nope. Honestly, I didn't expect to have this in-depth of a conversation at this meeting. I also thought we would be preparing for the March meeting. So I think we can move on now.
And I think just clear, the reason why we ended up, and this isn't for you, David, but for our AHC reps, the reason why we had a longer conversation on it is because Janice had a public comment, and then we had a second public comment summarizing a variety of issues. And so, yes, we're going to wait till March, but we're also going to talk about these issues when they come up because that's our job. Not to you, David, that was for anyone else listening who doesn't seem to get what we do here.
In addition to the comments on the same subject we've received for many months.
Yes, so, it's probably just a standing item until it's resolved. Julio, is that a new hand?
Yes, just want to first of all, I appreciate the time on this. Thank you guys for your patience with this and for your work. I wanted to mention that last time we had a resident named Anna reporting public comment, and she mentioned the security issues at the very end. Somebody in the parking lot, I think, with a hammer, which is overall security issues at Serrano. And that resident ended up having arson in the building. I think he lit, if I remember correctly, what I read in the article, he lit the balcony on fire. So there's still these security issues also to add on to the Serrano. And also, I wanted to clarify intimidation and retaliation on what's going on at Serrano. If they ever talk to an advocate and we go over there and help them out, take photos of what's going on, that's when they get ostracized or they get intimidated by maintenance staff and office staff. So yes, we have to look at the definitions a little bit better, but it's happening.
Appreciate it. Okay, I will entertain a motion from the commission to approve our minutes from our January meeting, unless there, yep, thank you. Any discussion or edits for the January minutes?
Pardon me, I have a question.
Yes.
Is Bisma showing up as absent? Where do we stand on her being a member? I thought there was some discussion before that she wasn't a member any longer.
So we are waiting to get a letter of resignation from her, because that's the formality in order to.
Okay. So she'll just always show up as absent?
So the position is vacant, and
Isn't there a certain number of meetings that you want on the commission?
well, we still require a letter of resignation. Note, email, something.
I just wonder, it just keeps showing up, and I'm curious. Thank you.
Put the name back for it,
Yep, and I've got the charter here. A member of the commission who fails to attend 3 tenant landlord commission meetings in a single year without providing advance notice to the chair or staff may be asked to resign his or her remaining term of the commission. The advisory group chair, after consultation with the county board liaison, shall notify the member if such an action is warranted. So I'm sure Rhoda and David are working through that. But I always love to have the charter because it's quite useful, and that's the lawyer in me. Yes. So I have a motion to approve the minutes. Second, all opposed, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Excellent. And we'll move on to our next item of business, which is subcommittee updates. And so, if I may, I think we'll go to alternative dispute resolution for their update, and then we'll be going to public engagement. I can't remember. Outreach for their updates. But yes.
Great. So we had our first subcommittee meeting 2 weeks ago at this point, or a week ago. So we meet typically the fourth Monday of every month. So this last meeting was about constituent services, and we learned about the process, a lot of the resources that are available to constituents and calling the constituent service line. And I think that's going to relate a lot with the other commission or subcommittee, because I think there is work that we can do to highlight what resources are available to tenants through the county, because there's a lot of it and it's disjointed. So I think there's some collaboration from two subcommittees on that. But going forward, this month we're focusing on the types of complaints or issues that are reported both to the county and the housing center, as well as Bugada, and how they've been collecting that to identify what makes sense going forward for an alternate dispute resolution to be able to solve. And then we are also going forward with commission research in 3 areas, which are learning about what other jurisdictions do in the region for this kind of service, going into the legality. What would you say your topic is?
Whether you can make ADR or alternative dispute resolution mandatory, as it's been past efforts on mediators have been voluntary in nature, and so there's been not a lot of participation in previous sort of schemes, and so whether or not it's even possible under state law is an option.
Yeah, so for context too, this was the county had a mediator at one point in its history, and when that person resigned, they decided not to replace that individual, but they did not see that person having a lot of action or not used to its full capability. So that's something that we're considering too as an option moving forward. And then the last thing we're researching is more in depth on the VRLTA. Anything that either of you want to comment further on?
I think the only other, to your first point around collaboration opportunities, I mean, we learned a lot that, there's this constituent services office, which is part of the county manager's office, the ombudsman for business and residents, seems like a really interesting tool that's available if folks know sort of where to get it. And they're often the front lines of getting the call about something happening, across the county, across the topic areas, housing in particular. And so I think there will definitely be some, per Emily's point, some collaboration around understanding how folks can leverage and make sure those types of issues get to the right place, like code enforcement and things like that. So it was interesting to hear from the head of that office.
Oh, I guess I will say that I thought it was also interesting that this gentleman, I can't remember what his official title was, but the county representative, who's sort of the only ombudsman at the moment, sort of doing both the business side and the resident side, said that downstairs, when they reopen the lobby, that they are going to have 2 people sitting at that front semicircle space, and that the idea is to take walk-in questions and to sort of be that easy place for people to go to, because everybody sort of realizes how hard it is sometimes to navigate the website, navigate who to talk to. But if you can just walk in and talk to somebody, they're gonna help you get there. And I think that that's really gonna help reinvigorate that whole idea of having the ombudsman.
Yeah.
I thought that's, could be dollars well spent for the county.
This is the closest thing I think the county has to through Loveland service.
Which I think in itself, another thing that we recognized. One thing we recognized is that I was sort of under the impression that the county had a 311 line. A lot of cities and localities do these days. It's, that simple non-emergency number where you can get routed to the right place. And so I think as they're sort of adding the capacity downstairs, it'll be interesting to see if the county ever sort of goes that route where you can easily say it if from a housing perspective, if your water is out or your heat is out in the middle of winter and your management isn't answering, the ease of being able to call 311 and get routed to code inspection or the housing division, were probably years and years if they're ever considered at all. But it's a reminder of how trying to make access to the county when it comes to emergency housing issues in particular, as we talked about tonight, important. And those 3-digit numbers, whether it's for 911 or now the suicide prevention number, 311 has become a powerful tool for a lot of places. So it was interesting that we don't have it. Any questions for the subcommittee? If not, who's outreach? Go forth.
So the outreach subcommittee met 2 weeks ago as well. I'm interested to hear about a lot of the things you guys are working on because there's a lot of overlap. So we talked about, it was Kieran and Matt and myself, and Hector attended as well to help us out. And I heard Roll that eavesdropped on us after the fact. That's good. So we identified a few goals, and put some ideas out there, and also followed up with what Kieran had told us that and worked on previously by the subcommittee. So one of the questions that I had asked you earlier in the week was what authority, and this is an idea that I had, and we kind of explored a little bit on our subcommittee. What authority does the county board have to require or strongly suggest that materials be included by landlords, either with leases or periodically to the residents, either electronically or physical copies? What authority does the board have to require that, or, like I said, strongly suggest, whatever that means? And to clarify, Roll, because this is an exchange you and I had on email, it's not that we want to print out 10,000 flyers and send them out, which Hector provided something like this, which is kind of informational about what the Tenant Landlord Commission is. I think maybe we were more, thinking of, or at least I was, kind of something. This is just the notes from the meeting of like a 1-page thing that says, if I have a problem with this, here's where I can go. If I'm in need of rental assistance, here are the county resources that I have. If I, certainly there can be something in there about Tenant Landlord Commission existence and meetings. And then frankly, some just helpful FAQ type tips like your lease governs your relationship with your landlord. Your lease is governed by the VRLTA, and provide some resources. Potentially, if there's an ombudsman or whoever it is that's going to be sitting down here, that's a resource that, the county has information officers or whatever they're going to call them available from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, so just basically a sheet that has everything all in one place that's passed out with your lease and potentially annually. The county already requires that kind of thing for recycling. So if recycling is enough of a priority that I have to provide a recycling flyer with my lease and annually thereafter, and not only that, but I've got to answer surveys and questions and be inspected and everything else, then I would think that some basic housing questions and resources could be answered by a flyer that the TLC puts out as part of our job. So that was that particular topic and a potential goal that we talked about. Two other things we talked about was, how are we represented on county websites and resources? We agreed we would look into that further. Clearly, the TLC is described in terms of its existence, but sort of how is it advertised or represented as a resource for residents? I think that's probably not so much on county websites, but we need to look into that further. We talked about, and then lastly, Kira suggested TLC outreach at in-person events might be helpful, whether it's the, I can't remember what that's called. I've been to it before, the housing fair or whatever.
Civic Federation.
And at the county fair.
That, things like that.
Basically in-person events.
Related
right?
groups, yeah, related voice groups that are related, have some similarity to our mission.
I would say advocacy.
Not every group in Arlington. No, we're not gonna.
No.
We're not gonna network at the auto car club.
But Arlington has an amazing chess club, apparently. I read an article about.
But basically outreach, his suggestion, and something that had been done in the past, and I think you had even attended an event, was at at in-person events, whether it's commission meetings or something like that, or, county fair, or the, I've been to this before and I can't remember the name of it, but it was like, it's a county-run thing. It was at the Jefferson Center, yeah. Housing fair?
The county place.
No, something else.
Rodeo?
Well, we have the county fair, we have the expo, a housing expo.
Maybe it's the housing expo. Housing expo. I think it was.
Down at 150.
Yeah, it's 50. Yeah, so I think it was the housing expo then, yeah. So, and they talk about fair housing, stuff like that. So anyway, those seem like appropriate forums for the TLC to have some kind of representation. And then we just touched on previous efforts, including, making sure that we're a standard agenda item for on TLC meetings so that we can talk about outreach efforts, and then, whether or not we wanted to reach out to or had previously reached out to, other groups like Garrett mentioned, the Civic Federation and things like that, to let them know of our existence and that we're available as a resource. Frankly, I'm kind of excited with the idea of something like a one-pager. I guess this is just chicken scratch, but if it's designed to look nice and has a bunch of kind of info on there, it could be a really good resource and something that the Tenant Landlord Commission could take the lead on.
Well, so, it wasn't too long ago that we had to add the residents' rights and responsibilities.
Yep.
And I don't know if you got the emails today, but now Arlington County Fire has changed some new codes that affect the multifamily housing with regard to scooters, mobility, non-personal mobility devices being stored and charged in multifamily housing. And so they.
Non-personal, right, you said?
Right, yeah, so like if you have a Lime scooter, you can't take it up to your apartment and just charge it, because it's not yours, it belongs to Lime.
I thought it was more a fire
also-
risk with the batteries.
Also, there's an issue with the fire risk because the EV batteries are
Yes.
exploding and they can't put the fires out. There was a death recently in New York because of that.
Right, I think I saw I'd
So
seen that.
that's what, if you didn't get the email about that for the county,
I didn't,
I
I'll
can
look
forward
for
it
it.
to you.
Please, yeah, that'd be great.
I didn't get that either,
There's gonna be,
about EV chargers.
how about EV chargers specifically?
It's the lithium batteries that are stored in these like electric, like the Lime
bikes.
scooters.
Well, I think that's why you can't do
Yes, in
them,
your apartment.
put them in your apartment.
Correct.
So that just came out, Arlington County Fire Department, Arlington County Fire Department is hosting a meeting on September 24th, a virtual one, but they sent out flyers that's and they have the new law, the new code that we have to give to all of our residents at least at renewal and at least once a year, just like recycling. So.
I mean, I think the
It's
mechanism.
not hard.
No, and I think the mechanism is, if I think about like the pathway to do it, asking for, changes to the ordinance and code that would make something like this a requirement, like affirmative, materials regarding, housing, resources and things like that. If that is not authority that the county already has, then I think that's something we can advocate for.
It's a problem with our priorities because some of the things we're talking about are just as important, but the recycling, the State Department of Environmental, the state requires that. The state of Virginia, the Department of Environmental Quality requires that. The fire, that's a safety issue. So that's the fire code, but some of the things that we want to tell people about are just as important, but they're not necessarily, there isn't right now, there isn't a mandate that requires every
Let's change the law.
landlord, every landlord.
Or let's advocate for changing the law.
Well,
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. It's just as important, but it's not triggered by anything.
My thought is if we developed I'm sorry, Lee, you want to say something?
I would just say we can provide it as a recommendation to some of the landlords, and if we're doing the outreach stuff, then having that one pager out the outreach areas would be good, because how many tenants read through all of the things that they have to
Well, and that's why if you do something that's colorful and pretty.
Yeah.
stand up.
And it stands out. I mean, it can have a lot of information on it, but my thought is if we were to spend some time.
Yeah.
Collecting the kinds of things that we want to see on there, have the commission take a look at it, make suggestions, comments, change it, get it designed so it looks pretty. And I felt bad because Hector showed us this and he's like, I did this. And I'm like, oh, it's nice. But it really just talks about like our charter and stuff. I'm like, this isn't going to be useful to a tenant, right? I mean, it lets us know that people know that we exist, but that's not a resource. So anyway, my point was, if we can put all that stuff in one place, show it to a county board member and get their buy-in to make this something that should be a relatively easy lift, I would think.
Yeah, well, the issue that I brought up in that was that it might end up being, if we're trying to maybe not mandate it, but try to make it so that it's, I guess it would be sort of a mandate, but that turns into more of a General Assembly issue where you're having to talk to changing the law, for instance.
I think the exercise of getting all of that together, even if we can't mandate it or do it, is worthy of the commission's time.
Mhm.
Well, if nothing else, it's great for the ombudsman downstairs to have,
Right.
right?
And,
Yeah, it's good. I think it's good to have as a suggestion for sure.
and I think if the subcommittee puts together if housing staff has one or we put one together, but I think more importantly that we make it for advocacy groups that are interacting with tenants, even if we can't, I mean, we should try. We should try to get it mandated if that's legally possible.
Mhm.
But if not, creating the resource or identifying a resource that might already exist that is serving this purpose and modifying it, and then really pushing through advocacy groups and even landlords that are just willing to voluntarily include it in their welcome packets. There are a lot of, I know today in particular, we talked about some challenges, but there are incredible, we have Arlington, including around this table, incredible landlords who, I think to our work around alternative dispute resolution want to sort of create those pathways for productive outreach and things like that. So even if we cannot mandate it, although we should try. But I think the first step, I think to Emily's point, is let's put it together.
Yeah, create it. I think that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So maybe at next outreach committee, maybe Curator Matt and I will sort of outline what that looks like. I don't think any of us can claim to be graphic designers.
Well,
So can you?
I actually think he.
Yeah, awesome. Even better. Kieran, you and I are just
This is,
superfluous now.
Is that you, David?
yeah, I don't want to interrupt though. I just want to interject when I have a chance.
Yes, please go for it.
So I am really grateful for the work you guys, the thinking you're doing about this. And I think it's awesome, the one-pager idea. I think along with the one-pager, considering what are the options, and we've been sort of discussing it here in this in the forum today, about what are the targets that we can aim at, what's achievable, and even if we don't get, let's say, the mandate, which is the top target, maybe we can mandate through Arlington County rather than the state legislature of Virginia to have all affordable housing included, and a program where we encourage private landlords as well, even if we can't mandate it. So I think I would ask the subcommittee to be looking into like sort of a tiered target system. So even if we don't get the best thing, we don't give up on the project because it has so much value.
I think that makes a ton of sense. And then to David's point, there may be for county financed properties, there may be an opportunity. And I think we've heard this as part of the CAF discussion, leveraging loan covenants to say, hey, you must encourage your tenants to utilize this ADR mechanism, or you must provide this type of information to your residents. So I think that's a great idea. David, thank you.
And I'll just say one more thing. From the constituent services that we met with, they have been developing a knowledge base of like if someone calls about this, then direct them this. And they said that they're gonna see how they can share that information, which I think would feed right into what you need for your flyer.
How they internally route.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna show you our flyer and you're gonna have to comment on it too.
We're excited. Well, that flyer there is.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's great, right?
That one
It's really
Is
good.
that his graphic designer?
He wasn't even virtual. He couldn't graphic design.
I wasn't doing it then.
So in a lot of ways, I think we bled into our work plan discussion as part of our subcommittee reports, which is great. So I want to put it out as a discussion to the commission, and I'm also mindful of time as we potentially lose quorum soon in the room. Are there any ideas that have not been discussed by either of the two subcommittees in the reports tonight of potential projects or other types of work that the commission as a whole should be focused on for 2023? Yeah.
So I guess I'm just gonna be the Debbie Downer. I'm not sure we should take on anything else. When I saw that came on the agenda, I was like, oh, really? I want to succeed at something.
Yes.
I want to start something, finish it, then start something new. And we have two subcommittees that seem enthusiastic, have tangible goals.
Yep.
But if each of us could finish one of the things that we want, right? You sort of have three, we sort of have three. If each of us got to one, and we're only meeting twice a month, I would be super excited. I would call 2023 a success. So
I second that sentiment. Sometimes you can get lost in a lot of lofty goals, and if none of them get accomplished, then it's just a lot of talk. And I would love to see more action. That's kind of what I was getting at with the Serrano conversation. More tangible results. More narrow goals, focused goals, but we actually get something done so that we've improved things.
yeah, and heck, if we finish in August, then take on something else, right? But when I saw that on the agenda, I was
Well, it's part of
We'll finish in September, not August, because we're off in August.
All right, so if I may, when we talk about a work plan, we're very talking about scheduled activities for the next 9 months. Right? So it is not necessarily things that you have to do. The subcommittees are off doing their work. I certainly need a bit more direction and guidance in terms of what, on a monthly basis, what are we doing? What information would you like? What presentations perhaps that you like that completed the work in subcommittees doing maybe. So you're really talking in terms of topics, if you will. And so, yes, subcommittees have their work, but on a monthly basis, are we coming to just have updates from the subcommittees? I mean, what is? Well,
if I may take privilege, I do think we've talked about this, I do think having more, I would call them work sessions, where we might mark up the new, we can't do a lot of work asynchronously because of public records laws. So I do think that there's value in that, not updates, because I agree, just like getting pure updates, but I think we've had a really rich set of discussions this evening, including on what subcommittee activities we're working on. And so I would suggest that, it is important to have, I think, getting regular briefings, information, and topics, but I do think it's actually okay, as the subcommittees are more active, I imagine the subcommittees will be bringing their work to the full commission for buy-in and comment and engagement from the rest of the commission.
Collaboration between the committees.
And collaborations as well between the committees. So I will say that certainly we should structure some events, but yeah.
I agree 100%, Chris. And I think if we end up going, so presentations are important when there's something big going on. There's something going on in the county that the commission it falls within the commission's purview to know about and maybe discuss publicly. Whether it's Serrano issues or other type of things. But it seems to me like if we have 90 minutes plus or minus for these commission meetings, that's our goal monthly, and we we get through the procedures of listening to public comment and that kind of thing. And then frankly, I mean, the next time we meet as a subcommittee, I expect we're going to go through and try to come up with an outline. We'll spend an hour, hour and a half of an outline of what maybe should be on on our particular flyer, for example, if that's our goal, and present that to the commission, give it to everybody, and then let them look at it and come back to us the following commission meeting. I mean, this is going to take time.
Yeah.
Right? And then we can design something. And then we can design something, give it to you guys. Everybody looks at it. The committee says, the commission says, let's vote on it. And just for my subcommittee, that seems like something that's going to take a decent amount of full commission time. Because I don't think you want Kira, Matt, and myself just coming up with something and just throwing it out there without consultation. And frankly, I think the stuff you guys are looking into is going to feed into this anyway, and vice versa. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that means you don't have to do as much planning for topics and stuff, Rolda, but I think we're going to fill the time.
So if that's what it is, I have two thoughts, and I misunderstood maybe what.
And I might have framed it incorrectly myself.
No,
so I
but
apologize.
even just reading it on the agenda. So who's our board liaison?
I think
Matt DeFranti.
So we haven't seen Matt, so it'd be nice to see Matt come in and sort of tell us what's he got cooking? I mean, he's got the 35,000 foot elevation.
That's, I believe, his right. He could do that at any time, right, Rolda?
Right.
But we should ask, we can ask him and invite him.
And then the other thing, Saul, you've been very quiet for the past few months. And I always enjoyed when he took 10 or 15 minutes to tell us what's going on from his perspective, because he is out in the trenches with the residents who have often less of a voice. And had a young lady who worked beside him who had a lot of data. And I thought that some of the information he provided to us was very beneficial. So if that's what we're talking about, those are two people I would like to talk to.
And I have a
listen to.
I have three ideas. One, which I think is already cooking. We're gonna, I think, hear about the budget next meeting, I believe. So meaty. I think it would be lovely. I think one role that the commission can have can be as a convener of other groups and other. So I think it would be interesting to plan at some point this year a roundtable of landlords of different sizes, perhaps sourced by our landlords on the commission, to hear about the challenges and opportunities from in terms of our rental market from landlords. And I think it would, the flip side, I think it would be interesting to have a panel of advocacy groups that are come by, including Bugada, to come and talk to us about what they're seeing as sort of the bigger challenges and opportunities in the rental market in Arlington. And two different meetings, but I think it would be a night, I think that almost could be a tradition if we could build it. And maybe it's already been happening, but I think hearing from folks, just giving a forum could be really interesting. And maybe less presentations, but more really trying to emphasize conversations.
So what would be the goal? I mean, I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
I would be interested in it. But what would be the goal from an action perspective of the commission?
So I think it's super fair. So I think if I think about it from what we could learn from landlords is I actually, and I think we still have some follow-up work to do on the housing choice voucher program, but I think we learned in the previously formed housing discrimination committee, we learned that there were a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, there was a perspective from smaller landlords that some of the burdens to taking housing choice vouchers made it a less appealing program for them to participate in, that I think we did not, or at least the subcommittee did not fully appreciate until we heard from those folks. So I think the idea would be, and this was going to be my last idea, is that we are in our charter supposed to provide to the county board sort of an annual report. And we have not done that since I have been on the commission. But I think what would be great is if we could do an annual report this year, that of course summarizes the amazing work we've already done, but we use that as a report to highlight, again, it's sort of making recommendations to the board of how we can ensure that our rental market is robust and is working for both landlords as well as tenants. So I think it would be advisory, which that is in our charter that we provide advice to the county board. So I think it would be collecting, the point of those forums would be to collect information about the challenges that landlords or tenants are experiencing and to transmit those just transmit a summary and any recommendations we have at the end of the year.
Julian?
There's a blueprint. I can't remember. Rolder will remind me what was the name of it. The county had a workshop at the Sequoia building, and Matt Whitfield participated, for tenant rights and legal services.
Yeah.
And it was a panel, so there's a blueprint already out there. That's
Yeah.
the detail. What happened.
There's several blueprints. So on an annual basis, we used to hold a small landlord workshop. Small landlords. So there is that, and then what you're speaking about is housing matters. We've had a series of forums on different types of topics, topics for tenants, and there was one where there were two sessions, one for landlords and one for tenants. Then information there faded. I think it was structured around fair housing. At the time, it was the analysis of impediments. So we had tenants in one session and landlords in another. So I mean, those are things that we have done over the years, definitely. Actually, next month we're having a fair housing. I want to call it a public meeting, and it's actually hosted by the Tenant Landlord Commission. So that is one of the reports I'm supposed to be able to get to that.
And are those sessions like county sharing information, or is it county listening to?
That's what I was gonna say, educational.
The one that you're talking about is a round table, something, so that it sounds like it's more of a conversation that's taking place. So either way.
Okay.
But in the ones that we have had, it is a forum, an opportunity for the county to provide information and for residents, tenants to get information, to participate in whatever way. So it's been done in different formats. Sequoia, it's also been done at Arlington Mill. We've gone, to different parts of the county to get information.
I would personally, only speaking for myself, would want to, if we had those types of roundtables that, as part of our program for the year, that they are more driven by us listening than either the commission or county staff having to report out to them. I think we should have a set of questions and areas of topics of interest that we can facilitate a conversation, but I would really be interested in, I am a public interest and I care deeply, I'm a member, but I care deeply that I rent and I like renting and I want the rental markets, 60, I think now to 70% of folks rent in the county. And so having a really robust, well-functioning rental market is important. And to the extent that there are challenges that tenants are the landlords are experiencing, and certainly we're getting a sense of what tenants are experiencing in some contexts. So yeah, that's my pitch for work plan items. But I'm mindful of time and needs. So either online or in the room, are there any additional work plan items or topics that you're interested in learning about? I would also suggest emailing Rolla directly with any, so we can have briefings. If you think about, we can ask the county to provide lots of information on lots of things. So if you have those, speak now or share them via email.
I'll just add to the Bugata stuff. With our subcommittee, what we discussed is the complaints that are coming in around housing. So if there's regular updates, I think you said Hector keeps track of those more. It doesn't have to be every meeting, but more regular of what kind of complaints or questions we're keeping track of.
Building code issues that are related to rental housing that are coming in that are available.
Yeah, all of that was Bugata as well as Hector to get ready to present that information. And I believe the Constituent Services Division, Department or Unit, whatever they also are prepared to bring some of that information, but it's primarily to
yes, we can check it out.
So I just want to make, sorry, go ahead.
I was just waving goodbye.
So there was one final announcement that I need to make in preparation for next month's meeting. I sent out the report, which is the regional fair housing plan. It's been called the things by. Anyhow, so that was a process that several 6 jurisdictions participated in with the Council of Government, and so we now have a fair housing plan for the region. Within it, it's a very long document, but within it, there is the Arlington's specific Arlington plan. So we'd like you all to look at that. I will be sending out more information on that in the next couple of days. And at the next March 8th meeting, we are hosting a public information or public event for that plan to be discussed, and the consultant that should be making a presentation on that plan. So it's important that we get the word out, and so that we can have a robust meeting and discussion on that plan. That is our agenda item
For next month? Okay.
As well as we'll
as well as a budget.
budget. Okay, excellent.
And AHC.
And AHC.
Oh, AHC.
Oh, and AHC would be a separate. It would be
This is our tenant landlord meeting.
It would be a joint.
The AHC, and follow up on the Serrano, that's taking place at the Housing Commission.
We will join.
Okay.
Or then
Well,
we're figuring out.
How that is going.
Okay.
Whether
That off.
commissioners from here are going to attend that meeting, or if commissioners are going to attend their meeting. Well, it's two meetings on two different days.
Yeah.
So one, you have the option.
Okay, good. What's up? Okay, got it. So I think building on Rhoda's comments, we all have networks. And so when we get that information about the plan, I encourage all commissioners to share in their networks. And then I ask, I guess we lost Saul. So anywho, but yeah, I would strongly urge us to share out to our networks the plan and the fact that meeting's happening, and so that we get great attendance and engagement. And so with that, I believe we have reached the end of our agenda and our spans of attention in the 21st century. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Excellent. A second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it. And thus we conclude the February 8th meeting. Probably if David has to swing my last as chair, or acting chair. So, oh, sorry, David, do you have something?
Oh, no.